on to, let's just do this, okay? What's up, guys? It's your girl Victoria, and I am back with another episode of the V-List podcast. Welcome, welcome. If you are new here, well, you're probably all new here in terms of this video, because this is my very first video that I'm going to be recording and attempting to upload to YouTube. This is the podcast about everything from A to B. I'll give you a little bit of backstory on my next episode about how I started the podcast, but my name is Victoria. I am your host. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I did this like 2 weeks ago, and I shot, a whole video and everything, and then I went to try and edit it, and long story short, I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, the video's on my computer, but I can't upload it. I can't send it anywhere else. So I don't really know, it just was a fail. But here we are trying again. You'll notice a slightly different setup. Well, actually, no, you won't, because again, this is your first time seeing me on video. But if you are not new to the podcast in general, that's what all this is. Okay, I'm trying to try something different in terms of V-List to get us out there and reach a different audience. Everything that I've been seeing about podcasts and how to grow your show and things of that nature include video. And it was something I was really trying to stay away from, to be honest, because it's a lot. I don't really like to be on video that much, even though I'm an actress. Isn't that ironic? The irony in that, right? I don't necessarily like to have to do this every day, or whenever I want to record a podcast. I love the convenience of being able to just turn on my phone and record my podcast on my phone. But I do realize that sometimes, especially when I have guests on the podcast, that it's just a little bit more interactive and engaging to see video, and for my guests to see me on video. And I've done that a couple of different ways before in the past. But this time I'm just trying to step it up a little bit and try something different. So bear with me. I don't have no fancy studio. I'm just in the second room, my office in my house, or my apartment basically. And yeah, this is gonna be the setup until I can figure more out. I do have a microphone. I don't know if this is even helpful, if you can even hear me more, but I don't want to have to talk like that. I tried to Jimmy rig this thing, and it's just kind of jacked, and I'm not even gonna start touching it. And there I go, touching it, and it's just not gonna stay the way I want it to stay. So. Or maybe it will. Let's just see. Let's try something different. Oh, well, there we go. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Regardless, welcome to the V-List. This is, if you are new here, the podcast about everything from A to V. I do try to be inspirational, motivational as much as I can be. I just try to share bits and pieces of my life and talk about what's on my list, right? And what I noticed is, it reaches some people. When I first started this podcast, probably about 4 years ago now, I didn't really have a vision for it, didn't really know where I wanted it to go. I just kind of used it as an outlet and a place for me to sort of speak my thoughts and talk about things that I wanted to talk about and that I found interesting. But I also hoped that it would reach some people, and that some people would be inspired and maybe motivated by my stories and my life and the things that I've dealt with. And I'm proud that it has reached a few people. I'm proud to say that I do have a small audience, but again, in order to reach more people, I have to try and do something different. So video, YouTube, this is something different for me. Now, I can't promise you that I'm going to keep this the same way, because I like to be able to just record my thoughts and turn on my phone and record whenever I want to record. But, I was listening to a podcast that I really like by Demetria Lucas. Is that her last name? Yeah, Demetria Lucas? Yeah. Ratchet and Respectable. Shout out to Ratchet and Respectable. And it's funny because, she kind of has a mix of things that she talks about on her podcast. And I enjoy her podcast. I've been a listener since she first started. And in one of the most recent episodes, I guess a commenter or a supporter of hers commented that They really like her podcast, and that as of late, she's been talking a whole lot about her life and less about pop culture. And it made me wonder. I'm thinking like, okay, well, she talks about her life a lot, which I actually enjoy hearing about. I think it's interesting. But yeah, she does like do a nice mix of like pop culture and like hot topics and what's going on in the world and this, that, and the third and what's going on in media. And I remember specifically when I first started this podcast, I was like, I don't want to be a pop culture reporter. Like, I'm not trying to give my take or spin on what's going on in the world. And I mean, I can occasionally, like if that's what's going to happen, or if there's something to talk about, then I'll talk about it. But I mainly started this podcast talking about myself, right? Talking about my life and my journey and the things that I've been dealing with, just like my personal life. And I was wondering like, well, maybe that's why my podcast hasn't really grown much. Maybe I need to kind of incorporate more of a mix instead of talking more about myself, where people who don't really know me and don't really care won't want to listen to that, right? But then it's like there are people who are interested in that. And then in terms of like pop culture and giving my opinion, like I don't know, I it's not that I don't want to do that, but it's just like I don't really keep up with that kind of stuff that much. Like I'll see an article or I'll see something on the Shade Room or whatever the case may be, and then I might have an opinion about it, but I don't really share it. I don't really share my opinion. But if that's what will reach, people and get them to listening, then hey, I'll incorporate a little bit of that onto the V list. We'll see how much of that you get. If it gets on my list, then I'll talk about it. If it's something that I feel can lead to a broader conversation, I'll talk about it. So yeah, here we are in doing a video podcast. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. Yeah, this is just a lot. It's a lot, and I feel I've been really contemplating my life a lot lately, and I'm not meaning that in a negative way. I'm meaning like what I want to do, right? And just in full transparency, sis just turned 39.
Wow.
Yeah, 39, and this kind of hits a little different. Like I'm pushing 40, and it's a little interesting that the effect that it's having on my psyche. And I think I've always been the type of person who has been pretty hard on myself in terms of like wanting to achieve and wanting to be like really good at what I do. Not necessarily wanting to be the best at what I do, but just wanting to like do my best and that be like really good enough for not just me, but for my consumers and the people who listen to me, or the people who experience me or experience my art, experience my work. And I think that, of course, I'm mature enough and wise enough to know that life comes with a whole lot of ups and downs. I'm mature enough to understand that you ain't for everybody. And I'm also mature enough to understand that I'm not going to be everything to everybody. I don't even want to be. Like, seriously, that's not what I want to be. But there does come a point in life where you want to feel like what you have to offer is enough, and what it is that you do is enough, and that it's good enough. And I'm not just talking about, again, for other people, but most importantly to myself. And if I'm being honest, like I struggle with that. I struggle with those self-limiting doubts. I struggle with that mindset of is this good enough? Is this going to reach anybody? Does anybody even really care? And then there's a part of me though that's like, well, I don't really care if nobody cares, or if I don't really care about the opinion of others so much. So it's kind of like a bit of an oxymoron and a battleground in my brain, because I'm thinking, if I don't care what other people think, then why do I care if it reaches anybody? Or why do I care if I am considered enough for someone? That's the question that I wish I had an answer to. It's that way just in life in general, man. It's that way with, work that I do. It's that way with my friendships. It's that way with my family. It's that way with relationships that I get into, I always feel like, I think I always start off like feeling hopeful and excited about the things that I go into and the things that I go to do. And then if I start to experience feelings of like, maybe this isn't good enough, or maybe it's not reaching or doing what I wanted to do, or maybe the person that I'm with starts to lose interest, it's just like, what am I doing? Is it good enough? Should I be doing more? And I also always allow room for growth because I believe in growth. And I want that to be, the story of my life, that I'm constantly evolving and growing, and I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to be stuck, and I don't want to, but I want to be consistent. So I want to be able to offer consistently my best. And if I don't feel like it's my best, then I don't know. I mean, I offer it. So this is just something, I'm just kind of, again, I'm kind of grim. I'm just kind of rumbling about the thoughts and things that I'm having as of late, and especially at this kind of pivotal moment in my life where I'm about to enter into a totally new phase of life. And this is my last year in my 30s. I've accomplished a lot, and now I'm like trying to figure out what more I want to accomplish and in what way. And then also how I want to do those things and who I want to do them with. So it's a lot. I'm definitely not, I don't feel like I'm at the halfway point in my life yet, because I do feel like I'm going to live for a really long time. But I want to start making some changes that will impact the future of my life and the quality of my life going forward, because there's a certain level that I want to be able to live at. And I'm not just talking about financially. Yes, finances are a part of it, but I'm also talking about just like in terms of freedom, time freedom, in terms of flexibility, in terms of what I'm able to offer people, and then also with a certain level of like more discretion. And what else am I trying to say? There's been a lot that has happened to me over my life. Not all bad, not all good. I've had some pretty decent experiences, I'd say. And then I've had some experiences that I wish hadn't happened. And I'm learning that you can't avoid those things that you don't want to happen. Some things are going to happen that you're just like, damn, I did not want that to happen. And there's really no way to prevent those things. You're supposed to either learn from those things and grow from those things. Hopefully you don't have to stay in a cycle where you're constantly experiencing those types of things. But sometimes you'll get in situations where you feel like, this feels familiar, and how did I get back here? So like, for instance, with this whole like shift that I'm trying to take in terms of like moving this podcast along and growing it, I remember being at this space when I first started the podcast, and I remember feeling like I want to do something different with myself and my talents and my time, but what is it, right? And I decided on a podcast. And after I started to record the podcast, I found a way that worked for me. I did some research. I wanted to know, like, do I need to be in a studio? Do I need to buy studio time? Do I need to buy equipment? Blah, 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 blah. And what I ended up finding was the easiest, most efficient way for me, which was Anchor. And it worked for a while. And then, it was working until it wasn't anymore. And I'm not saying it's not working, because I can always stay in that vein. I can continue to record my podcast on my phone and upload it to Anchor, and it gets streamed to all the podcast streaming platforms. But I get to this space where it's like, okay, I'm doing good. I'm on a run, and then it's like I want to take it to the next level, but I get lost, I get confused, or I start to feel like, well, how do I do that? And then what happens is I lose steam, and then I don't do anything. I might even quit. And I kind of hate that about myself. And I'm not here self-loathing. I'm here to be honest about my feelings and the experiences that I have. And while I may be experiencing that feeling of like, man, I hate when I'm in this place where I don't know what I want to do and I don't know how to do it. Or maybe once I figure out what I want to do, I just don't know how to do it. I hate that I lose momentum and that I lose motivation, and then nothing gets done until I feel like it's like behind the curve, you know. And then it's like, oh, well, by the time I get ready to launch this, like this whole YouTube thing is like, man, do you know how many YouTube channels there are now, girl? Ain't nobody really gonna be checking for your YouTube. And that's an inner thought that I have that is BS, but that's where I go. And it's actually self-sabotaging. So I am working on that. I'm in therapy for that. It's the same with relationships. Like, I feel like, I meet amazing people and I'm an amazing person. I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. It's coming from a place of self-actualization. Like, I know who I am and I know what I have to offer all the relationships in my life, friendships, lovers, business partnerships, whatever. I know what I have to offer, and I also know my limitations. And when you get into a situation with like maybe friends or family or whomever, relationship, lover, and things are going well, and then all of a sudden things go south, right? Like, I'm wise enough to know that there are ebbs and flows in relationships, that there are ups and downs, that people change and people grow. I get that, right? But then you get back to this space of like where you're at a crossroads and you're wondering, is what I have to offer enough? And if it's not anymore, then okay, fine, move on, right? But I get tired of that. Like, you see the long-lasting relationships, and granted, I'm, again, wise enough to know that every relationship has its up and down, friendships and everything included. And you don't know the half, or you don't really know what all that person has to go through, experience, or whatever in the relationship, and in order to make it long lasting. But the fact that it's still lasting, sometimes says something. And I'm at that point in my life where, I've had a failed marriage. You all know that, who've been a listener before. If you're new on YouTube, yes, I'm divorced. I've been divorced for almost 6 years. And I've been divorced for as long as I was married, I think. At least a real marriage, whatever. I've dated, since then I haven't had a long-lasting relationship. And I'm not here to say that it's all been me. I think it's trial and error. Like, you meet people, you figure out what you like, what you don't like, and then you eliminate and keep it moving, right? But then when you meet someone who, like, earlier last year, 2020, at the end of 2020, going into 2021, I met someone that I really thought could be it. Now, in hindsight, I realized I've settled for this person because they weren't it. And there were several flags, several signs and things that were trying to tell me that this ain't it. But there were some things that it showed me in terms of what I wanted in a relationship going forward. And because there were things that I wanted in a relationship, and those things were shown to me in that relationship, I was like kind of fooled, thinking, oh, this is it. Yeah, this is what I want. And the bad stuff just comes with the good. Yes and no, right? Long story short, that relationship ended up ending tragically. Got my heart broken pretty bad. And I got closure on my own. I came to a place of closure on my own, but I never really got the closure from him that I thought I wanted or needed at the time. And what's funny is now, like a year and a half later, all of a sudden, he's reaching out. Yeah, that's what happens. They always come back in some capacity. But it just taught me like what I didn't want, right? And it put me back in this place of, here I am again, now trying again. For a minute I didn't want to try. I gave up. I was like, I don't want to date. I don't want to do anything. I just want to focus on me, get myself to a place that I'm proud of, that I can be happy with. And then I got back to out there and started dating. And then I was introduced to someone. And so far, that introduction has gone well, right? But there are just a lot of similarities in terms of like the situation with this person that are reminding me of what I don't want and what I didn't want. And so yeah, now I'm just like, it's like, do you accept these things that you don't want and wait for them to change? Or do you just say no and trust that the universe or God will bring you something? I don't know. I'm just in that place. And I'm in that place with my job. Even like, again, it's like I started at this company 3 years ago, and it was great. And I was like, oh, this is wonderful. I can do this work. I love the company. I love the people. And now I'm at this place where I'm like, I kind of don't know if I want to do this anymore. And maybe I just don't want to do it here. Maybe I want to go to a different company. And that's okay if I want to go to a different company. But then no doors have opened up for me to be able to move to another company as of yet. So it's just kind of like, again, I'm in this place of like, do I accept where I am, or do I literally just drop everything in order for the new to come in? Like, I am there. So I don't really know where this is going. I'm saying all this to say that I'm trying to grow, and growth does not always look the way you think it should look. It's not always linear. Sometimes you have to repeat cycles in order to, I guess, learn or maybe try something different. But growth is constant, and it's something that I strive for, and it's something that I want to start to get more comfortable with, because at this point in my life, pushing 40, I'm wise enough to know that growth, like, I could stop, but I would be miserable. And so I'm wise enough to know that if I want to continue to evolve and if I want to continue to grow, then there are going to be uncomfortable moments. There are going to be situations that are not ideal. Like, it would be a perfect world and my life would be perfect if everything went the way I wanted it to go, right? So I don't know whose life is like that, but if your life is like that, hit me up, because I would really like to meet you. If everything in your life has gone exactly the way you wanted it to go, you are an anomaly, and I would love to meet you and get some of that juju that you got. But also, I do also know that sometimes, even with the bad things or the uncomfortable things, that they end up working out for your good. They end up turning out okay, even if it doesn't turn out. Even if it ends, it's okay. It ended. That's fine. And that's easier said than done in the moment, but it is what it is. So that's where I am, y'all. I'm at a crossroads in my life where I know that I want something different. I can even see what it is that I want, but how to get there, how to achieve it, and how to get there and achieve it with minimal pain points is my plan. Yeah, how that's going so far, yeah, I don't know, I don't really know. But nevertheless, I'm going to wrap this up because I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but I wanted to just get this first video podcast up on my YouTube channel so that I can start to direct you all to that. Before I go, I do want to plug myself. I'm also an author. I did release my first book this year. It's a journal. It's entitled The A to B Journal, 22 Thoughts to Enhance Your Life. Based on the podcast series that I had on my podcast IG page, the A through V series, which I basically just kind of take a word and expound on it and try to use it to be motivational and inspirational to you in your journey. So that book, the A to V Journal, 22 Thoughts to Enhance Your Life, is available wherever you purchase. Well, what am I talking about? It's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And I do have links on my website, www.theVlistpodcast.com, for you to purchase. I have some other projects that I am working on, and I'm really excited to try and release those projects pretty soon. So bear with me, but I would really love to interact with you. I'd love to know more about you, introduce yourself. If you want to go back and listen to past episodes or prior episodes of The V-List, it's available wherever you stream podcasts, and you just search The V-List Podcast. And you'll see quite a few episodes up there. So thank you for listening, and